Our God is a God of life. Today's gospel is Jesus raising Lazarus to new life from death. It is the last of the 7 signs in the Gospel of John. Ever since the wedding at Cana, Jesus has been performing miracles, each one life-giving, transforming water to wine, healing a nobleman's son, healing the man at the pool, feeding the 5,000, walking on water, healing a man born blind, and now resurrecting Lazarus from the dead. Each story serves to bring life and transformation. The story of Lazarus reveals an intimate, personal, human moment as Jesus attends to his friends who are like a chosen family. And the story begins with a message to Jesus, "Lord, he whom you love is ill." And Jesus responds, "This illness does not lead to death. Rather, it is for God's glory. It is for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Then he waits. 2 days later, Jesus returns to Judea, where he just recently escaped being stoned. And when he arrives, Lazarus is dead in the tomb. And it is Martha who steals away from the mourners to meet him. She greets him with, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." She addresses him as Lord. It is an acknowledgement that she believes in him. And she says, "But even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him." And Jesus came to give life, saying, "I am the resurrection and the life." He is claiming his divinity. And Martha confesses that she believes he is the Messiah, the Son of God. When Martha returns and privately tells Mary, "The teacher is here and he's calling for you," she quickly gets up and leaves. And the house was filled with mourners, and they all get up and follow Mary. And when she reaches Jesus, through her tears, she also says, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Mary and the mourners are weeping. Jesus, deeply disturbed, and asked where Lazarus was laid. And they responded, "Lord, come and see." His very own words to discipleship. And Jesus wept. And in this moment, we see the fullness of his being human. Perhaps he is weeping for Lazarus, and also perhaps for himself and what is to come. This act will seal his fate. It is a pivotal moment. The crowd begins to question and raise doubts. Jesus, greatly disturbed, goes to the tomb, a cave with a stone. Jesus acts, directing the stone to be taken away. Martha, being Martha, states the obvious. Already there's a stench because he's been dead 4 days. And at 4 days there is no doubt Lazarus is dead. And death is part of life. And the belief is that the soul lingers 3 days near the body and then departs. And Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" And then he prays, and he prays aloud so everyone can hear the prayer that the crowd may believe. And Jesus calls with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." It must have been quite a sight for the crowd and a shock for Lazarus to be awakened from the dead. When he comes out, Jesus says, "Unbind him and let him go." Many believed. And if you read further in the text, there are those who went to the authorities to report on Jesus' latest and greatest activity. And then we encounter Ezekiel, the prophet of Israel, during the time of Babylonian exile and the return. When the people returned from Babylon, their city had become a desolate wasteland, and the temple had been destroyed. And most people had been taken to Babylon, but some had made a new life there, and only others returned to be devastated by the destruction they encountered. As God instructs, Ezekiel speaks the prophecy. The bones come together, flesh is laid upon them, and the breath comes into them in the vision. The dry bones are Israel, dead, devoid of life and hope. And the Lord instructs Ezekiel to prophesy to these bones. The prophecy is a call to life as the Spirit of God will cause breath to enter the bones, giving breath and life. Israel is to be called to new life. It never regained its former glory. The dry bones formed into something very different, something less powerful and less successful, but truer to its mission. The promise of new life is not a promise that we are in charge and that we will get what we want. The prophecy to Israel and the calling out of Lazarus are God bringing forth life and resurrection, albeit different than what anyone hoped or prayed for or even dreamed. Next Sunday, we enter into Jerusalem with Jesus, carrying palms and singing our hosannas. And we will journey with him through the events of Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday, and celebrate rising to new life in him on Easter morning. Jesus gave his life for the world, for all humanity. He loves us so much, he died for us to have life and have it abundantly. Glory to God in the highest heaven.